You're probably watching this and you're probably thinking, who is Liam Kilpatrick? Who is the Shared Minds podcast? What are these guys doing and why am I on their YouTube channel or however you're watching this? And I want to give you the backstory of who I am, and Kirby's going to do his own, and then we'll probably both simultaneously explain why we're doing this. But we may as well give you guys context into who we are. So, I'm Liam Kilpatrick, one of the hosts of the Shared Minds podcast. I may as well just go back. I suffer from severe OCD, anxiety, and depression when my OCD and when my anxiety is getting bad. This all started when I was about 8. I found out Freddie Mercury had died of AIDS, and I remember sitting there and I was watching like a documentary, and I just started bawling my eyes out because I started freaking out that I was going to become gay and then die of AIDS. I was so young. I remember finding out about dying of AIDS at such a young age, and I was like, I don't want to die. At the time, I didn't tell anyone and nobody knew, but I only remember that like a couple of years ago when I was going through the diagnosis and talking to the doctor. But that is probably my earliest like memory of OCD and like my first ever obsession. And I remember that went for a few days, but I was so young it kind of just dissipated and kind of disappeared. But yeah, that was probably my first, at about 8. But yeah, I grew up without a dad, and he left when I was about 11. It was more of an amicable split. Grew up without him anyway. I think that is what has made like my mental health worse, because I haven't had like a male role model to actually help me understand what's going on and like seeing it from a male's perspective. And I think that's definitely like made it, I'm not going to say made it worse actually. I'm just going to say I think I had to deal with it a lot differently by not having a dad. I don't know. I see people with dads now and I go, I don't know. I feel like having someone like that you can look up to that's a role model can definitely help you look at things differently and help you through things. But yeah, so I grew up without a dad, stopped talking to him at 11. I actually ran into him at a shop when I was about 15, and he knew it was me, and he looked at me and he goes, "Hey mate," and then he kept walking. And that was like the last time I ever seen my dad. No interest in looking after me or speaking to me or anything. So yeah, that was a weird experience. And now that I look back on it now, I go, how the fuck can a father do that? Anyway, so yeah, I met my ex at 16. I ended up dating her for 10 years, and we only split up about 7 months ago. But so I met her, and my years from like 16 to about 18 to 19 were just spent heavily partying, heavily drinking, playing rugby league with mates every Friday night, and all we would do is just party like the entire time. And I look back on it now, and it was the funnest time of my life, and I would never have a second of it back. But that was still, I don't know, sometimes I question maybe all that partying might have made my mental health a little bit worse. Could have made my mental health worse. Fuck, that was hard to get out. Anyway, so yeah, I was going back and forth with my ex at the time, and we would like break up every weekend until we're about 19, and I used to party heaps. And you know, being at that young age, like partying was obviously something that was so big in our lives that we both just went out and went our separate ways on weekends, and would break up every weekend, and we wouldn't talk the entire time, and then we'd get back together at like, you know, on like a Monday, and then become Facebook friends again, and then everyone would be like, oh my god, they're back together. Well, one of them couples. And that went on for like 3 or 4 years till we were about 19, I think, maybe 19 or 20. Anyway, so yeah, we ended up breaking up for a few months at about 19, 20 years old, and I just partied the entire time. And then we got back together. And I remember the first weekend that we had gotten back together, or the second weekend we had gotten back together, I went out partying and I went out drinking. And the following night, I was on PlayStation with some of my mates, and they were like to me, "Do you remember that girl that you were speaking to last night? Who was that?" And I was like, "I don't remember talking to a girl last night. Like, what are you talking about?" Anyway, I haven't really had any OCD obsessions until this point. Like, I've had little random ones, like the, you know, the dying of AIDS one, little random ones. There's probably a few more that if I really tried to remember, I could think of. But anyway, so I remember they said that to me, and my ex at the time was laying in the bed. It was late at night, we were playing Fortnite. Anyway, I'm just sitting there going, who was this girl? I can't remember. And then I just remember having the thought, what if this girl, like, and I kissed and I don't remember? Or like, what if anything happened? Like, what if we went into the bathroom together and did things, and like, I just ended up spiraling, I remember. And me and my ex had just gotten back together, and we'd only been back together for a couple of weeks at this point. And I was like, I don't want to lose her again. Like, we were just broken up for like months, and I was like, I don't want to break up again. So I remember like spiraling that night until about 2 or 3 a.m. And I remember tapping her on the shoulder and waking her up, and I said, a girl tried to kiss me last night. And she goes, did you kiss her back? And I'm like, no. And then she's like, okay. And then she went back to sleep. This girl never tried to kiss me, but I was just so terrified that maybe something happened, that I thought that maybe admitting to that was going to make me feel better and make it go away, which it didn't. It did nothing. But like, because that was my OCD at the time that I was not aware of, that was just what my brain was telling me to do. And I was like, if I confess to this, maybe it'll take the worry away. And I remember that night, I don't think I slept. I was going back and forth. I smoked, and I was just going out for cigarettes. I was having like minor panic attacks. Like my knees were like jelly, and I was just freaking out. And anyway, that went on for a few days, maybe a week or two. And I was like, all right, I can no longer drink. I can't drink anymore. I'm not losing her again, and I'm not, I can't do this. Like, if I black out drunk, I could have done anything, and I'm not willing to lose her. So at that point, from that point on, I was like, I'm taking a vow and I'm not drinking. So I ended up going and starting to go to the gym. And at that point, I was like 103 kilos. I lost like 35 kilos in like a very quick time. But from that point of deciding not to drink to 12 months later, I hadn't had a drop of alcohol. Not a drop. People couldn't even get me to have a mouthful. They'd be like, try this beer. I'd be like, no, I'm not even touching it. So I was like, I'm not drinking, I'm done. So yeah, got to like the 12-month period, and the Raiders were playing in the preliminary final, I think, against like Bunnies or something at Canberra Stadium, GIO Stadium. And I was like, look, I haven't drank for a year. Why don't I just go out and have some fun? So I ended up going out that night. I barely slept the night before because I was so excited. They hadn't been that far into the finals in a long time. So I went out. I ended up getting off my head drunk. Can't remember a thing. I was standing there. I remember I waved a Raiders flag and hit a kid on the head, and the dad was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, and then I ended up like falling over. And then I called my like girlfriend at the time, and I was like, can you come get me? I'm drunk as. And then I remember I was sitting with a mate's girlfriend, and she had just found me. I think I was like wandering, trying to find the front door, and she just seen me and was like, well, are you all right? And then I remember, yeah, so then I've got into the car, I've woken up the next day, and then somebody was like, oh, you're with her. Bang, again, obsession. I was like, oh no, here we go again. So I was freaked out about that. I was like, I'm not drinking. Anyway, fast forward a few years, I'm having like some random obsessions here and there. I remember I went to a concert, was sitting next to a girl I knew, thought that she and I did stuff in the toilet, and I cheated on my ex again, and that one got me for months, if not years. That one would come and go. So anyway, it got to a point where like I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not drinking anymore. So I'd just drink for like special occasions. Then one day I was at work, and I worked with this chick that was about my age. She was going through like a divorce at the time. I think she was with her partner at this time. But anyway, I've come into the office, and she said to me, are you okay? Because I was having a bit of a rough time. And I was like, no, not really. And she's like, well, how about we go for a walk like that and just clear your mind and tell me what's going on? And I was like, oh, okay. Didn't really want to, but I was like, whatever. So we go for a walk around the block, and and it's like a 30-second walk, maybe 200 meters. And I remember midway through the walk, I was like, did she try and... No, I remember thinking, imagine if me and her kissed. Like, that would be kind of random. And I just remember having like an image of us kissing, or a thought of us kissing. And it was just a random thought that most people would just go, what the fuck? And then just dismiss. Anyway, I dismissed it at the time. Fast forward about 3 hours, I'm sitting in the office, and I was like, why did I have that thought about kissing her? That's really, really weird. And I was like, that's a really weird thought. Like, did I kiss her? I was like, no, I wouldn't have kissed her. I went back and forth with myself that afternoon till about 9 o'clock at night. And I was like, okay, what's going on? I've never had an OCD obsession before sober. Like, this was the first obsession sober. It was like 9 o'clock that night. I'm laying in bed. I'm just starting to have another panic attack again. I'm freaking out. I'm like, did I kiss her? So I start ruminating on the walk, and I'm thinking back and forth, going around and around and around. And I couldn't figure out whether me and this girl had kissed. So that obsession ended up lasting 9 months in total. About 5 to 6 months in, I ended up calling my mum crying because I hadn't eaten or slept for about 4 or 5 days at that point. And I was a mess. Like, there's a photo of me at the time. I have like beard growing out, hair's long, my eyes are baggy, I look atrocious. That point, I was having panic attacks every day. I was really paranoid that she knew that we had kissed, and I couldn't ask her because it was kind of weird. I was like, I can't ask this girl if we kissed. But in my head, I was like really paranoid that she knew, but she wasn't saying anything. So like, I was just like, she knows. So every single conversation that me and her had, I was like trying to get it out of her that me and her had kissed. And I don't know what she thinks of them conversations now. I can only imagine that she would have thought these are weird conversations. I'd be like, because at this point I think she was with her husband, and I was like, have you ever cheated on your partner? And she's like, no. And I'm like, oh, not even like with a work colleague. And she's like, no. Like, it was just weird. I was just asking weird questions. I was paranoid. I was like delusional. I was putting images in my head. And anyway, that obsession lasted for 9 months until I met one of my best mates now named Jack Johnson. And he actually, for some reason, I'd only opened up to Kirby, the co-host of this show, and my mum at that point. Kirby helped me through it. He was an angel. Like, he would literally take phone calls from me till like 2 a.m. I would be ruminating, going back and forth, telling the same story over and over and over again, trying to get reassurance, and then being like, do you reckon we kissed? We didn't kiss, did we? And then he'd be like, no. Then we'd finally move on to another story, and then I'd be like, hang on, can we go back and just... So Kirby was there the entire time, and my mum, I was just calling them every day, going over and over and over again. Kirby never complained. He just took the phone call every time. He was also confused because he'd never heard of OCD. He's like, just thinking that, I don't even know what he thought about me, honestly. I should probably ask him what he thinks about that. But yeah, so yeah, anyway, a few months later, about 8 to 9 months later, I met Jack Johnston. He moved up from the Blue Mountains. He started working with us, and one day I just opened up to him as well. He said to me, bro, you're not looking good. What's going on? And I just opened up to him one day, and I was just like, told him everything about the whole scenario. And he goes, you got OCD. And I was like, nah, I don't, man. Like, I don't like straightening things. I don't like doing this. I don't like doing that. It's not OCD. And he goes, nah, you've probably got OCD. He's like, I had it. And then me and him were going back and forth that afternoon, sharing like certain things. Like, he was like, I had this. And I'm like, fuck, maybe I do. Anyway, ended up getting diagnosed. That was a story in itself. I shouldn't have. There's a lot I learned out of getting diagnosed, and one thing is like, don't go down that rabbit hole of like continuously trying to figure it out and learn about it and get questions answered. And you know, you might hear about like you might hear about certain like OCD obsessions and compulsions, and then you might adopt them, which is what I did. So got diagnosed. I couldn't shake this obsession with kissing the girl from the work. This is like the 9-month period. So I was like, one day, fuck this, I'm just gonna go up and ask her. I went up and asked her, and she goes, no, we would never do that. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh my God, 9 months of worrying, it's all good. And then about 10 minutes later, my brain was like, yeah, but what if she's lying to you? What if she just is lying? And I was like, oh fuck. So it just kicked off again. I ended up getting on top of it, and it was fine from that point. I got over that obsession. It took a few days, few weeks, but like, I'd come in and out of it. I wasn't like fully obsessed with it at this point. But then once I finally got on top of that, I started freaking out that I'd kissed almost every single girl that I'd ever come into contact with, whether I just walked past them in the shop, had to talk to them at the shop, whether it was a friend of mine, a girl that I worked with. I think there was like 1,000 girls that I thought that I'd kissed. With OCD, there's like, I like imagine half of your brain is good, half of it's the OCD. This part of your brain knows that nothing happened. This part of your brain is just saying, what if, and imagine if it did. And then it's just really trying to lure you in. And the more you let it win, the bigger it gets, and the smaller that good part is. And then that just fades out into nothing. And then you were just predominantly consumed by this OCD. And it's like, now I feel like it's 95% good. No, I'd probably say about 80% good, and then the rest OCD. But it's like, if you let that thing keep going and going and going, you will get to a point where that is literally like consuming your entire brain. So, yeah, anyway, it just got worse and worse and worse. And it was probably the worst I'd ever felt in my entire life, honestly. I got to a point where I couldn't go to the shops. I couldn't have conversations with people. I was constantly stuck in like an obsession. Like it just wouldn't end. Like I used to get stuck in an obsession for a couple of hours, then come out of it. A couple of hours, come out of it. A couple of days, come out of it. And then it was like a couple of weeks, and then it was a couple of months, and then it was just fucking forever. So anyway, yeah, so I don't even know. Like I finally got to a point where I was starting to get on top of it. This was about the start of last year. Me and my ex at this point weren't really good. We're still together this entire time as well. She doesn't really know about all of this until the last minute. But yeah, fast forward to the start of last year, me and my ex started getting a bit rocky. Things weren't great. And then anyway, we had a trip booked to America for June, and that was the only thing really keeping us together. It wasn't good. And we were just not fitting all right for each other anymore. I think if that holiday wasn't booked, we probably wouldn't have stayed together for so long. But anyway, like a couple of weeks before that, we got really bad, and then we ended up just going on the holiday. Everything was great again. Then we finally came back off the holiday, and then all of that kind of wore off, and then we ended up eventually breaking up. So that was about 7 months ago. But also, I should add, while I'm in the middle of all this OCD, I'm watching Osher Günsberg and Luke Combs on podcasts. They were the only two that I could find. And there was no one else of my age, or anyone that was relatable that I could find talking about it openly. Like, there were people on quick little podcasts for 10 minutes that barely scratched the surface of what they were going through or anything. And I was just like, this is fucked. Like, I need to hear other people going through this. And at that point, I could only get Luke Combs and Osher. And they were both, luckily, long podcasts where they talk quite frequently, like a lot about it. So I was like, just hanging on to those. And I remember at the time, I was like, when I get through this, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to fucking talk about it in depth, because I'm the most oversharing person. There's probably so many things in this video that I've overshared that most people wouldn't. But like, I overshare. I don't care about people's opinion. It's funny, I care about people's opinion a lot, but when it comes to my mental health and all of that, I couldn't give a fuck. I don't care if anyone watching this thinks I'm nuts, thinks I'm crazy. It's something that I'm born with, and it's something that a lot of people deal with, and you are not your thoughts. It's just the way that my brain's wired. So anyone that's going through any mental health, you can't control it. It's not who you are. You are that voice in your head that wants to get better and wants to fix everything. You're not that one that's always chirping and just going and you're not that. So you got to separate yourself from that. But anyway, I was just like, I need to do this podcast, and me and Kirby had talked about it. So we were like, when I get on top of my mental health and when I'm better, we're going to do it. I couldn't do it at the time. I would have just sat on a microphone saying, oh my God, my life sucks. I was like, I need solutions. We need to keep it valuable. We need to help people. I can sit there and talk about how miserable I am, but how fucking exciting is that? So yeah, we ended up coming off that holiday and then breaking up in August. The podcast started around the time that me and her had broken up. And yeah, we broke up. That was fucking one of the hardest times in my life. That's probably, if you would ever ask me what the worst day of my life was, it was probably the day that we broke up. And if you would ask me what the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through, that breakup with her and going through my OCD would be so fucking similar. I think going through the OCD was a bit harder. I think that was fucking harder, but going through that breakup was also harder because it wasn't just breaking up with a woman, it was an entire family that I lost, and it was a lot of things that I'd lost. But then also the most frustrating and hardest part for me was that, like, I'd gone through this mental health hell because a majority of it was just thinking that I'd cheated on her. There was a lot of ones where I thought that I was going to go to jail because I had accidentally killed someone and all of this. But like, majority of that 5 years from 20 to 25 was spent thinking that I'd like cheated on this girl. Thinking that I'd cheated on this girl, my fiance and everything. Sorry. She's hot, that chick. I've got to cut that out. But yeah, so I'd spent 5 years with this OCD thinking that I cheated on my partner so many times, and it was just hell. And to finally just break up and realize that I went through, at the time, thinking I've just gone through all of this for no fucking reason. Like, we have just broken up anyway, and the reason that we have broken up is because she didn't really want to be together anymore. I'm like, and that's nothing on her. She can't fucking change that. But I was like, in my head, I've cheated on you a million times by accident, and I'm fucking thinking that I'm going to be the reason this relationship ends. But she ends up breaking up with me because, like, well, it was amicable. I'm not going to put the fucking blame on her. I'm not going to paint her in a bad light. Like, it didn't work out. But I was just like, I've just done 5 years of this for no reason. Like, really? Like, I've gone through this for nothing at the time is what I thought. I've gone through this for fucking nothing. I've just wasted 5 years. I haven't drank. I haven't done anything I've wanted to do. I haven't enjoyed my life. And again, it's got nothing to do with her. It was just the way I had to deal with my OCD. That was probably one of the harshest realizations after we had broken up. I remember the night that we had broken up, I started crying my eyes out, and I just said to her, like, I can't believe that I finally got on top of my mental health and this is how it ends, but now I have to go through a whole nother mental health battle of like a breakup, like a 10-year breakup. Like, I have to go through this. Like, it was just one of the most grueling fucking things that I'd ever looked at, because I'd obsessed over breaking up with this girl and us breaking up for so long that this was the scariest fucking scenario that I could ever be put in, is me and her breaking up. I just fucking obsessed over this for years, and for it to finally happen and to be in front of me, I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to survive. Like, not that I was going to kill myself or anything. I was just like, I don't think I'm going to mentally be able to do this. I'm going to be crippled in a bed. I'm not going to be able to do anything. So that was terrifying, and that freaked me out quite a bit. But, you know, I'm very, what do you call it? Driven, resilient, and hungry. And I was just like, you know what? I can't fucking sit here. I can't just sit here and be upset. So ended up working really hard. And then the podcast started taking off, and things weren't working out where I was working. I did real estate, busted my ass in that for 4 years, made almost no money, started making money. And when I started making money, quit my job to do this podcast full time. And it's probably the best decision that we'd ever made doing this. The people that we've met already is just so inspiring, so exciting. The amount of stuff that we've managed to do with this podcast in like 9 months is just insane. And I don't compare to anyone else. I'm not saying that anyone else isn't doing as good as us or anything, but I look at some podcasts that have been around for some time now, and I'm like, how have we already done this? Like, it's insane to me. Like, they're obviously running their own race, and I'm not comparing us to them, but like, I'm just like, we have only been doing this for 9 months. We've already done this. Like, we've got 1.5 million views on social media, like TikTok and Instagram. And I'm just like, what? And that's over the last 30 days. That's not over the last 9 months. That's over the last 30 days. So it's like, it's just insane to me. And we're doing our biggest interview to date in 9 days from now. I can't announce it yet. It hasn't been done. We don't like to do that until it's been done and confirmed. It's confirmed, but we just haven't done it. And this guy is somebody that I've been looking up to and I've been inspired by for a long time now. Like, this one's probably going to make me pretty emotional doing it. It's just one of those things where I feel like I've worked my whole life towards, not a whole life, but a long time towards. And it's just one of those things where it's like, if you work hard enough, it'll happen. And if you can be, you know, believe in it, it will happen. But and that's basically how we're here. I've probably skipped and jumped over quite a few things, but I just wanted to give the brief overview of who I am. But our journey is on the go. We're going to become the #1 mental health podcast in Australia, and the reason that we want to do that is because we want to become #1, because that would just be awesome. Like, that's just a massive achievement. But also because of the things that I've gone through and Kirby's gone through in the mental health, we also want to become inspiring to people. Like, we want people to be like, these guys had no help from anyone. They literally quit their jobs where they were making great money that they'd sacrificed half their life for to get to this position. They've quit their jobs to do this, and they have no plan. All they have is microphones, a camera, and fucking belief. And we are going to get to #1. And I just want us to be inspiring to people. I want people to look at us the way we look at Luke Combs, because he inspires us so much. And he's just, without him, I don't think I'd be where I am today. Just because of his story and the inspiration that he's given us. And I just want to be able to bring that on to people. I want people to realize that they can do whatever the fuck they set their mind to. Like, it does not matter. Like, if you can see it and you like have the courage to speak it, that's exactly what Conor McGregor says. I don't want to sound cringy, but if you can see it and you have courage to speak it, it will happen. Like, it will happen if you just have that belief and you back yourself. Just burn the boats and do what you've got to do. Don't take my advice on that. I don't know. That's what I've done. It's working so far. But actually, don't live by that, because I don't know. But yeah, that's who we are. That's who Liam Kilpatrick is. That's my story. That's a brief overview, but in the podcast, we touch on it in depth. So I thank you for listening if you're still here. But yeah, there's big things to come, and I appreciate everyone that follows us, watches these videos, and I love you guys so much. Love ya.